Podcast City Network.
Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show. A shot of entertainment to the head. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the entertainment.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Everett Lee Show podcast. I'm Everett Lee. Quick shout out to everyone who follows me on Twitter. You can follow me at the Everett Lorescore Lee. Facebook.com/the Everett Lee. Click that thumbs up. And, of course, Podcast City Network, the official host of the Everett Lee Show. Well, tonight I have another great action-packed podcast. I don't even know if I should say action-packed, though, but it's a great podcast that I have on tonight because I have another promoter on with me tonight. He is none other than wrestling promoter for Battle on the Borders Pro Wrestling, Denim Blevins. Denim, welcome to the Everett Lee Show podcast.
Hey, Everett, thanks for having me in, man. I'm always glad to discuss some wrestling.
Yeah, I'm always in the mood to talk about wrestling, talk about different things going on in the world of wrestling, from talent to promotions and all in between, man.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Trying to spread and build the community. I feel like a lot more people would like wrestling if they just knew about it.
Exactly. If they knew what wrestling can do with bringing people together and just bringing just all sorts of variety and a lot of people that have and share the same interests. There's a lot it can do. There's definitely a lot it can do. And when did you start watching wrestling?
So I can't ever remember not watching wrestling. So I'll be 37 this year. But the first specific memory I have was my dad ordered the WrestleMania 3 at the Pontiac Silverdome, which was in '87, and that was Hogan and Andre. So if I had to pinpoint one time, I would say that's what hooked me, but I was already watching it before then, or I wouldn't have been able to talk my dad into ordering it.
Nice. WrestleMania 3, man. That's one of the most talked about.
Iconic one? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Well, I was lucky enough, too, that later on in life I got to go up there for the WrestleMania in Detroit with hair versus hair with Trump and McMahon, so since I kind of got into it watching a WrestleMania from Detroit, it felt good to go back and actually watch one live there. So,
well, that's great, man. That's great. How was that?
I didn't know I was going to see my future president.
How was that seeing that live, man? How was the crowd? Because you know how
it was pretty good. The worst part, though, was Ric Flair got mooned by his opponent that night, mooned the crowd because his opponent pulled his shorts down, so I wasn't too excited about seeing a 55-year-old man naked, but other than that, it was pretty good.
That's great. I'm sure the crowd was on fire because hearing the crowd on TV compared to being there live in person, that's a totally different experience, ain't it?
Yeah, that's what I try to tell the fans and stuff too. Like, you can wait until after some of the shows, even Battle on the Border, WWE, into that, and watch the video, and it can still be cool. But it's nothing like the live experience because that's when you get the goosebumps and you get the vibe and you can pick up on how other people feel. You have more raw emotion. So it's definitely way better live. It
is. I have attended July 2014 in Tampa Battleground. That was like one of the first big pay-per-views me and my wife attended. And in 2015, me and my wife went up to New York for SummerSlam. And the being there live is just a totally different experience from watching it on TV. It definitely is.
I would agree with you, man. The other really cool one that always sticks out for me was I got to go to the first ever King of the Ring, and that was June 13th of '93 at the Nutter Center in Dayton, Ohio. So about an hour from where I live. I'm in Cincinnati, and my dad took me there. It was really cool. He actually made it on the DVD/video for doing the 1 2 3 kid chant 1 2 3 where he had got that upset win against Razor Ramon. So I was a little jealous that my dad made it onto TV and I didn't because we were sitting right next to each other. But yes, I agree with you. It's like it's an awesome feeling and it gets everybody hyped, young and old, and like brings a lot of people together.
It does. It definitely does, man. I mean, if I remember the first time I took my wife to a NXT event here in Daytona Beach. First time we went to see NXT live, I made sure we got ringside seats. And the first thing I said to her, I said, when they hit that mat, it's going to get loud. And she's like, how loud? I said, it's going to get loud. And then all of a sudden during that first match, I couldn't tell you who was wrestling though, but when they went in to do a hip toss and a body slam, scoop slam, it's just that sound. My wife was like, whoa. And then she was like, she loved it, man. She loved it. Seeing it live.
You've got a certain segment of the community that seems to think that like the ring is, say, like a trampoline or some kind of like springboard or something like that.
Right.
And obviously that's not the case. Those people have never taken a bump or been slammed in the ring, or they wouldn't have that feeling at all.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's just, it makes it, and usually I guess I'm just assuming just how the ring's put together and what's used for the ring. It makes different rings make different sounds, don't it?
Sure, absolutely. You're going to have your better rings that have, better padding and a little more give to them. And you're going to have your old school rings that have been around for 30 years and been repaired 10 times, and they're probably going to be a little stiff. It's going to be a lot of wood and not much padding, and it's not going to feel too great. It'd be similar to getting body slammed on a piece of plywood with some carpet on top of it or something.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Now, you said you attended the 93 King of the Ring. Was that one of the first wrestling events you attended, or was there another one?
I believe that was the first pay-per-view I attended, and my dad had done that because, like, I guess I'd been doing good in school, and then he knew I was a big fan. But we'd been to some house shows before, but never anything quite that big.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'd seen, for instance, we saw WCW house shows, so I'd seen Flair and Sting and people like that, and been up pretty close with those tickets. Like at the King of the Ring, I was a little bit further back because those were obviously a little more expensive and a lot more demand. But yeah, I'd also been to a little bit of independent professional wrestling as well. Not too much, but dabbled in it.
That's awesome. That is. I think the first independent wrestling show I went to was back in, I believe, 2017. Ring of Honor came to Florida. They sold out at Lakeland. They sold out. They always sell out at Lakeland, no matter what kind of wrestling they have there in Lakeland. So the next event, the closest event, was Fort Lauderdale. So me and my nephew and a friend of his and my wife, we all drove down to Fort Lauderdale, and that's the furthest south I've been in Florida, in the state. And we went there for that, and that was one heck of a show, man, because they blew the roof off. That's
I've heard some good things about the wrestling down in that area being strong, and I'm sure it helps to be able to run outdoor events whenever you want and stuff, whereas when I set up things like that, I have to have a contingency plan because I live in Cincinnati, and you never know the weather from one day to the next here.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of promotions and a lot of stuff happening with wrestling here in the state of Florida. If you actually look at the state of Florida, it's like almost like the old territory days because there's so many promotions here. It's a melting pot of promotions all over the place.
Right. I'm sure you may be aware we actually have used several wrestlers from the Florida area. So, yeah, we have some people that come up for our shows from down there.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with some of the workers that you have for Battle on the Border pro wrestling. Speaking of Battle on the Border pro wrestling, when did you decide to become a promoter? How did you get into that?
All right, so how I got into it was probably rather unconventional, and I actually started Battle on the Border in 2016. I was working at that time at a place called MVP Sports, and I was already in charge of their basketball. So I ran like their 3-on-3 basketball league, and then I was also in charge of their men's and co-ed softball. So I was, lead umpire, tournament director, like organizing the fields and doing all that. So I was running their other two sports, and I knew that at that facility a long time ago as a child, they had pro wrestling, and this was before the current owners.
Right.
So I had some friends in the wrestling business. At that point, I approached them and said, hey, what do you think about me bringing a third sport in here and just give us a little bit more variety where we're even more cutting edge? And I got the owners to go on board with it. and started from there. We had our first show ever. I had 105 tickets sold, which I actually lost some money. We had our main eventer was a friend of mine's deceased, Brian Lawler, Grandmaster Sex Day. So it was, but it helped set a barrier or set a bar for us. And then ever since then, 2017, 18, and 19, we've never had a show with under 230 tickets sold.
Damn, that's impressive, man. That is impressive to have ticket sales like that there. And
yeah, and the best, we had one even get as high as 470 for our best event so far.
Oh wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. When I'm on Facebook or on Twitter and social media, and when I see Robin Nelson, I want to give a shout out to him from Wrestle Popcast.
Robin's a great guy. He's one of our sponsors. He's actually one of the guys that helps me with quite a few things.
That I've heard, and he's mentioned it to me a few times before, and he's put you guys out there. He's promote Battle on the Border. He's put stuff up.
Yeah.
He's put stuff up on Podcasting Network's social media as well, which is great.
Yeah, he's a big part of things. He's a real good friend too. So even away from wrestling, I like Robin. Like he's one of those people that wants the best for people, and he doesn't have any hater in him. So you come across a lot of people in wrestling. Like a lot of people have, malicious intent, or they'll be, selfish or backstab or those type of people. And Rob is the other way. Like he tries to bring out the best in everybody. He's always upbeat. He's always uplifting. He's never crying about stuff. So he's a really, really good guy.
He is. And I love what he does with the interviews and everything for Wrestle Popcast. I love what he brings to the table for Podcasting Network. And the guy is all over the place, man. He is all over the place. If he's not down in Kentucky helping KZW, Kentucky's Own Wrestling, with Hurricane JJ McGuire, he's up there with you helping promote Battle on the Borders. And
yeah, we have a sister promotion about an hour from here in Hamilton, Ohio, called Future Great Wrestling, and he helps them out too. So he's definitely very active in the community.
Mm-hmm. He is. He's put a lot of time and everything into helping, and he's passionate about it. And like you said, yeah, he's just a great guy, and I enjoy talking with him and just all the content and everything he puts out and he promotes. And
yeah, I think passion is just one of those things you can't teach. So for me, that's something that I pick up on if someone has it or not just by talking to them, and that tells me a lot. So that's one of the things that gravitated me toward Rob from day one, is I could tell that he seemed like he was in wrestling for the right reasons. He truly does enjoy it, and he enjoys it on different levels. So he's well-rounded at this point, and very committed and very enthusiastic.
He is, and talking about being a promoter, what are some of the pros and cons that you've come across being a promoter?
Okay, so the pros would be, a quick example would be that my grandfather passed away 4 years ago, all right? And he was like my hero in life. He fought in World War II, and he fought in the original BOTB, which was Battle of the Bulge, over in Germany. So that's actually where I got the acronym for our show, BOTB, Battle on the Border, was from my grandpa. As a kickback to him. He had passed away at age 90 and had lived a great life and all that, so I felt like he would like that. And then we also have gone into a couple different VFWs and done shows, and at those times, like the alcohol and food money goes back to the VFW, so I feel like my grandfather would be looking down and be like happy or proud about that.
Right.
And so that's one way, like it makes me feel like I can give back to the community or give back to family and stuff. And then another way is we started our shows in Harrison and West Harrison, Indiana, and Harrison, Ohio, two towns that are right next to each other. But we had enough success that last year we expanded into a new town, and that was Addiston, Ohio, and that's actually about 5 minutes from where I'm from. Like it's from my old school district and stuff, and they didn't have a lot of entertainment there. And we've done a couple shows there and absolutely packed the place, and it really feels good to do something in your hometown. Like, so those would be the kind of pros. And then, I mean, obviously you get to, meet some cool people and and that kind of thing as well. So there's a lot of pros, but I'd say the main pros would be like the feel-good stuff, like being able to give back to the community and kids and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
And as far as cons would probably be just dealing with certain kinds of people, because you do have some negative people, as I told you, in the wrestling. There's people in there that are haters that don't want you to do what you're doing. There's people that are, liars. There's people that's unreliable with money. And I'd say like babysitting a bunch of adults' personalities and trying to get them all on the same page is probably the biggest con. And then I guess another con would be, if you don't promote hard and don't really work at it, you can easily lose money because you're the one that's butt is on the line every show when you're the owner or promoter.
Right. That's a lot going into it, man. That's a lot going into it, and that at times do you feel stress?
Oh yeah, so I would say at least the week before the shows, I feel super duper stressed out. I start. It can get worse when, say, you have one of your main eventers or one of your key people unable to make a show. Like for instance. It happened with a good friend of mine recently, and he had never missed a show on us before, but we had 2 shows in June, and Marty Jannetty was supposed to be in town for him, and his sister got really ill the day before, and he ended up having to miss it and stuff. So that kind of thing is really tough when you're basically reconfiguring everything at the last minute, and you're also trying to deal with last-minute sales and just all the other organizational aspects of it. So, yes, I get very, very stressed out.
Yeah, I seen that on your Facebook there with Marty, with everything that was going on, and he
had quite a bit going on, but specifically the sister and then other stuff as well. But I don't really want to get into all that.
Right, and then right there you already have your card set, and so at the last minute you got to make some changes. You got to move this here, move that there, right? Absolutely, and stuff like that happens regularly. Like it happened to us recently with Chase Owens. He's a good friend that worked a lot of shows for us too, but we had a deal from day one that if he, New Japan calls him, puts him over New Japan, then obviously he's going to have to pull. So that happened. And then we had, a similar thing with Angelina Love where she was supposed to work the show and got a Ring of Honor deal. So no fault to any of those people. That's them moving up and doing well and making money. So I'm not saying it like that, but I'm saying it does create a hassle and a headache. Mm-hmm.
It also creates an opportunity for someone else, though. So you got to look at it from both ways.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good positive way to look at it, right there. That is, and I've seen a lot of the talent that you've had on there. Like you mentioned Chase Owens. I watched on YouTube. I watched the one match that was from last year with it was Chase Owens going up against Ricky Morton.
Yes, that was a student-teacher match.
That was great, man. That was a great match.
Hey, Ricky's got something left in the tank. What do you think?
He does. He still has a lot in the tank, and I love how Chase played the crowd and how he got the heat on him. And then when it came to Ricky, man, it's just he didn't want to. Just classic
Ricky
good.
Morton's over the second he walks in the door.
Yeah. He is. He is. He was over when he got in the ring there, and that was such a great match. I loved it, and I didn't expect the outcome of it. I did not expect the outcome of it. I was like, no way. And I loved the finish of that there because it got more heat on Chase, which was great. He did so well.
And later on in the year, Chase actually grabbed our Battle on the Border Championship, so he's actually one of only 5 guys to hold that. So he's pretty high on the food chain in our company. He hasn't lost too many matches, and that one in particular was a really big one for him because, that's beating a Hall of Famer, and obviously that's going to make you remembered by the crowd, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people in our fan base knew Chase Owens from day one, people that really follow the internet, but a lot of them that are like WWE type of fans honestly wouldn't know someone like him. Even though he's a great wrestler, they have no clue who he is, but then you pin a Ricky Morton, they remember you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You pin someone like a Hall of Famer and a legend like that, they'll remember you. They definitely will. And
yeah, we actually have both of those guys are going to be back for us for a couple shows in December this year. So maybe we haven't seen the last of that.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing what else they do in the ring. And I looked into some other matches that was up on the YouTube channel. I was laughing hysterically at the one it was put up there. It was about a week ago. It said on there it was a week. It was like a week ago, and the beginning of the match, you had two midgets in the ring, man, going at it, and then.
Yeah, that's Buddy the Bulldog, and he was facing Cowboy Kid Quick. So it was a power wrestler midget versus a high-flying speed midget.
Yeah, that was great. I was entertained by it, and then all of a sudden they got thrown out of the ring there. And of course, one guy I know of, Damian Saint. I was like, why do I not expect this? Damian Saint coming in and ruining a match.
Well, the guy that Damian brought in there is one of the most vicious people we have on the roster. His name's Paxton Calloway. He's 7 foot, 400 pounds, and that's legitimate too. That's not me exaggerating. He's legit 7 foot, 400 pounds. He's only 24 years old. He's already got a tryout with WWE. So I don't know how long we'll have Paxton Calloway for. It's kind of like Brian Pillman Jr., where I'll have these guys while I can, but I do think WWE is going to swoop them within a year or two. But yeah, Paxton comes out there as a 7 foot, 400 pound undefeated monster and basically obliterated the two midgets.
Yeah, but
that created a Kodak moment. We had quite a few fans taking pictures of that stare down and tagging it on social media, and that's the kind of stuff we like too, because that brings a little bit of a circus type atmosphere where, you know, a grandma might like that, a kid might like that, basically all ages like something like that, and that's really where we're at with it.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because when I saw the midgets, I said that's something I have not seen in a long time, and I was like, this promotion is great. And of course, you have the 5 Most Wanted. I've had on the podcast before. I've had Shauna Reed on. I've had her on, and you've had. She's retired now. Hardcore Heather Owens. She's worked with you.
Yeah, Hardcore Heather. She wrestled for us for the first couple of years, and she was one of the most loyal members of the roster. She actually never missed a single show, and then she told me, she's like, hey, Denim, this is it for me. This is my last year. And she told me a full year ahead of time about her retirement, so she was as professional as she could possibly be. And she actually never requested a specific match her entire career until her retirement match at Battle on the Border. And that's when she came to me and said that she would like her retirement match to be against the heavy metal Viking Hooks in a hardcore match, which he's our resident hardcore icon and like one of the most extreme guys you'd ever meet. So for her to really ask for that for a retirement bout, it had me scratching my head. But she went out there and it was a bloody mess on both halves, and she did end up losing the match, but she seemed to enjoy that farewell.
Yeah, she I had her on there talking about a few episodes back. Actually, I had her on last, I believe it was like last year. I had her on and talking about her last time lacing up her boots and her last match, and I'm gonna have to check that out right there with heavy metal Hooks. And I've seen Robin Nelson have him on his podcast before, but I definitely like to see Hardcore Heather Owens and Hooks right there, man. That's great.
That's one of those matches you got to watch. I mean, the crowd's super into it because they know going in that it's the swan song for Heather, so there's full support there. And then Hooks, as I said, he's our hardcore icon. He's the most extreme person on the roster. So when you ask for that match with him, you have to know what you're getting into. So, yeah, it's a bloody mess. There's all kinds of weapons, and it's a crazy situation.
my favorite type of match. My favorite type of match there. And I love those mixed intergender matches because you don't see enough of it on like popular programming that you would see on TV and stuff. And
they're probably a little bit more afraid of how they present it. I'm more about putting on a show for our fans, so I can see why they might be scared, but I'm not scared. We'll do what we want to do, and I think someone like Heather, she proved that she belonged. I mean, she did take a loss in that match, but she certainly proved that she belonged, and you'll see that she gives out just as much as she takes.
That's awesome. I'm definitely gonna have to look that up, and I definitely am. And now I mentioned like other like programming on TV and stuff. WWE. Do you keep up with the current product of WWE and NXT?
So to answer that question, I would say sort of. I try to watch it when I can, so I probably know like most of who the champions are and stuff, but I don't watch it religiously. I can't watch everything, but
Right.
I have a general following of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people saying
Like I'm not happy with like their main event for the next show being that mixed tag match. I don't feel like Baron Corbin's the main eventer. I really haven't understood that at all.
right.
But
Right.
I still watch it, but I just get a little frustrated sometimes.
Yeah, I believe a lot of people do because of what the direction and how the product's going, because it's nothing like it used to be. And I know they're trying different things though, but I believe John Moxley, when he did that interview on Talk is Jericho, it kind of shed more light into the situation and stuff on what's going on behind the scenes. And I feel that eventually they'll get it right. I mean, they've done stuff here and there, which a lot of people's like,
I kind of disagree with you about that. I don't necessarily think they will get it right, because I think that their corporate base is so PG and they sell so much kids merchandise and those type of things that they really don't have a reason to be edgy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they're going to just keep doing what they're doing and maybe mix it up a little bit because of AEW, but they're making their money. I mean, they're definitely making their money doing it that way. It's just for the real fans. It's like that 10% of the fans that really know what's going on and pay good attention, then their show's not going to be up to standard. But for the 90% that just flip through and see it on TV or just happen to be there and catch it here and there, it's going to work on them every time because they don't realize it's the same stuff regurgitated and all that.
Right. I agree with you right there because, with them being PG and selling a lot of merchandise and aiming towards the kids and family and casual audience, that's who they're aiming it at. Right. To
me, something like AEW is aimed more toward the the true wrestling fans, the deeper wrestling fans.
Right.
Whereas WWE is more like widespread, like I was saying with the circus type of stuff, where they're going to just have a lot more silly stuff, maybe not quite as believable type scenarios, but it's going to appeal to their audiences that they're targeting, which includes those kids and all.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people's talking about AEW because a lot of promotions like WWE, they've been suffering for a long time, and they're even suffering more now. Ring of Honor, they're suffering because of Cody, the Bucks, and a lot of the talent is over in AEW. And it's like AEW walked into the room and sucked all the oxygen out, and everyone's talking about AEW. What are your thoughts on what they're going to be bringing to the table as a promotion?
So I think that they are going to be possibly as high as the number 2 overall wrestling show. I think that everybody that's saying they're going to leap past WWE is living in a fantasy world. That sounds good on paper, and I can see why they would hope for that, but it's just not realistic when you look at the marketing and what countries they're in and the TV deals and all that. Is just not realistic to be happening anytime soon. Right. But I could see them being as high as the second best because of their money and because of the TNT deal and all that. And I've enjoyed what I've seen so far. So I've seen the couple pay-per-views they've done, and I thought they were good. But I don't think they should be gifted that number 2 spot. I think they should have to earn it a little bit more than they do. And seems like a lot of fans are basically like nut huggers or whatever, and they're just giving that to them. Mm-hmm. To me, you got to prove it a little more. But I can definitely see it, and I definitely dig it, and I'm rooting for them. I'm just not one of those people that's going to dive in head first and believe everything I'm told. Right.
They've pretty much been put up on a pedestal, right? And
yes.
Yeah.
And like I said, I enjoyed it, so I'm not taking it that way. I'm saying some people need to let it grow and maybe not jump the gun.
Exactly. That's how I felt, because as soon as it was announced about AEW, a lot of people's like, oh, it's Monday Night Wars 2. It's like, what have they done yet? They announced a roster at that time. They announced the roster and the talent. They haven't done nothing yet. And I did check out Double or Nothing. I thought it was a really great pay-per-view with some really great wrestling. That's what I...
Yeah, one of our guys was on there. Brian Pillman Jr. was on there, so I had to watch that one.
Yeah. That was awesome seeing him on there and seeing a lot of the talent that I've seen in the indies actually was on there. Especially
even someone like Billy Gunn. So I actually saw him at a baseball game a few weeks ago, and it's cool seeing him on that show as well, because if you see that guy even in person, man, he's 6'4", and still super ripped. Like, he is 55 years old and looks like he would smoke almost anybody still.
He is. And behind me, I have an autographed picture of him. I met him last year in Orlando at that wrestling event. I walked up there and started talking with him, and he's a cool guy, down to earth guy, and we just started talking about just wrestling and stuff. And he's a big guy, and he's still ripped and stuff. And his son is wrestles too, man.
Yeah, I've heard that they're actually tag teaming some and such. So I could see that being pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Going to take a quick break and give a shout out to the sponsors of Podcast City Network.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Tap Room on Facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Morph Tee, a comfortable and lightweight 100% polyester t-shirt with illustrated morph characters that, when worn, will make the illustrations seem to come to life. For more of Tony Rodriguez's work, you can see his full line of apparel at teespring.com. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/SportsSanityCustoms. 3Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit Facebook.com/3CountDesign for more. Demo Blast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel and more. Visit DemoBlastStudios.com. Visit Demoblast Studios on Facebook.com/Demoblast Studios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit Facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show.
You know, someone really cool personality-wise that I've met, because, like, you're going to get a lot of variation with the different wrestling people. Some of them, you know, maybe think they're better than people, don't really want to talk, or some of them are, you know, going to be nice and all that. But one that was especially funny, even to me in person or anything, is just Jim Cornette.
Yes.
You ever had that pleasure?
I met Jim Cornette. I got his autograph behind me too, up on the wall there. Those viewing the stream right now. I met him at that same event I met Billy Gunn at. I had the pleasure to talk to Jim Cornette. I walked up there wearing a Jimmy Hart Hall of Fame bar and grill shirt, and that was the first thing that Cornette seen, and we just started kicking it off and stuff and everything. And he's like, when Jimmy's place was here in Daytona, he's back over in Tampa now, but when he was here, Cornette was asking me about Jimmy, and I said, yeah, go by and see Jimmy, and he told me a couple stories. I love talking with him. That right there.
Well, I find him to be hilarious. I really think he's funny. And I think he's also, like, brutally honest, which is what I like. Like, you can throw him out a question there where the answer is going to offend somebody, and Jim Cornette is not going to shy away from that question.
Yeah, he's not. Cornette is not going to shy away from anything. I know a lot of people get pissed off on him and stuff, though, but that's Cornette. And a lot of people like...
Yeah, because they think everybody should be censored and filtered. I personally like the old school stuff where people say what they really think and everything they say is not fake. I appreciate the fact that he's real.
I do too. And I know he's a straight shooter. He says it like it is. And a lot of people don't like that, and I do like that. I agree with you right there that he's an old school straight shooter, and people don't know how to handle that nowadays, how everything is with the...
Because he's got to say something that hurt their feelings.
Yeah. I know not to take him seriously though, but I understand the point.
Yeah, man, like, dude, everybody needs to have a little bit thicker skin here, you know?
Yeah.
If you're getting offended by what people in wrestling are saying, then you need to reevaluate yourself and try to understand what's going on even.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, one of the things with the talent that you have in that's wrestled for you at Battle of the Borders, you've had former talent that's been in WWE. I think I've seen like Rob Conway. I've seen pictures of him up on your Facebook.
Yeah, he's a former champion. He was our first ever champion of Battle on the Border, and he actually wrestled, I think, our first 8 or 9 shows, so he's been there quite a few times.
Nice.
But he's slowed down a little bit, so now it's more of a hit or miss, be here and there, and basically he's nearing the end of his in-ring career, and so he might still do some appearances and stuff like that. But Rob is he's on the back 9, but I got a lot of love for him, man. He's got a very good spot in our company's history. He helped me get it going. He's been one of them guys that was kind of like a mentor to me sometimes, you know, just talk behind the scenes, try to just learn a few things that, from someone like him. I mean, he's wrestled in 49 states and 13 countries, so I feel like if I don't listen to him, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I remember watching him on WWE. I remember I loved him and I hate him because he did such a great job on there, and that's awesome that he's helped out with Battle on the Border. And also you have one of the former tag team guys, Rory McAllister from the Highlanders.
Yeah, so Rory's actually pretty heavy involved in the company right now. Our next show, him and whoever his partner is, because he's got an ensemble of partners, battle the 5 Most Wanted for our first ever tag team championship. So we're not just going to have the men's and women's titles. We're going to have new tag team championship. Those are the final 2 teams left in an 8-person tournament. And Rory is running a group called the International House of Pain. They shortened it to IHOP to remember it, but he's used a guy from Mexico named Cisco Silver. He's also used Leo Kruger from NXT, who's from South Africa, and then a couple other people. So he's got an ensemble of foreigners that are part of his stable there. So it's kind of like an anti-U.S. thing. And Rory is a pretty big part of our company. He works all of our shows, and he promotes it a lot for us. And he's a really good guy, too. Like, I'll give you another example. Maybe 6 months ago, my younger brother was in the hospital having some issues. And, you know, even though on camera I hate Rory as the villain he is, like, he went up to visit my brother at the hospital and do all those kind of things. So he's a very good person.
That's awesome. I had the pleasure to speak with him a while back ago when I did one of my other podcasts, ELS Uncut. He came on and he called in. I got to talk with him, and just a great guy. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like trying not to mark out. I'm like, man, it's like I enjoyed this guy on TV back in the day, and I'm talking with him, and I thought he was just awesome, and he's great. Just having a good conversation with him.
He's very good, man, and he's very loyal, very committed. He's hey man, he draws really good heat, man. Them fans at Battle on the Border try to boo him out of the venue wherever we take him.
Now, talent that's out there that has not wrestled in Battle of the Border, who do you have your eye on in the indie scene that you'd love to come to your promotion?
All right, so one of them that jumps out immediately would be Angelina Love, because she's worked a couple shows for us, but she's done it as a valet for Chase Owens. And we actually had her signed for a championship match, and the whole Ring of Honor thing pulled her out temporarily. So I'd like to get her in there sometime. I'm trying to think of who else would be toward the top here. We've got a guy up here in Chicago named Mojo McQueen, who's got a really good gimmick we've looked at. There's a couple tag teams out there, the Carnies, the Ugly Ducklings that we've had an eye on. Haven't brought those in. A girl from down in Atlanta named Kira Hogan, who's one of my buddies, Curtis Hughes, used to wrestle as Mr. Hughes. So he's worked a few shows for us, and one of his top students. So I've looked at possibly bringing her in.
Right.
There's another real good one up here named Jake Something, who's done a lot in this region. I've had my eye on him. So we definitely are constantly evaluating talent and looking to bring in some new people.
That's great, man. That's great. I mean, you got your eye on talent out there that you're like, yeah, I like to get this person. I like to get this person. That's great. Now,
one to hit me up about a month or so ago that I was interested in, I haven't worked anything out yet, was the Beer City Bruiser.
Nice.
Yeah, so he was one to come in. So yeah, we've definitely got a good group of people knocking on the door and trying to get in there.
That's great. That's great. I mean, you got a lot of great talent that comes in and out of there, and you got a lot of fans for the promotion, and that's awesome. I love it, and everything I've seen so far with the Battle on the Borders, I love it, man. I definitely do. Now, someone who's getting into wrestling, starting out as a talent or a promoter, what advice would you give them?
So my advice to get into for promoter would be really know what you're getting into. Like it's not probably nearly as easy as what people think. Like I think like a lot of people think it's all like roses or whatever. It's really like not like that. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes of orchestrating it.
Right.
But if you're going to do it, you basically, I would say, do what I do in the fact that I surround myself with as many good people as I can. So I have, for instance, 2 guys that are locker room agents and help control the locker room. I've got a head of sound. I've got a head referee. We've got, head of security, a head ring girl. Just basically split everything up and have a different person in charge of each different group. And basically then I would only have to tie it all together. But I'd say you have to surround yourself with people you trust and that are loyal. And you have to promote your butt off, and you have to divide the duties out to everybody as well as you can, and not try to do it all yourself. If you try to do it all yourself, it's almost destined to fail. And now if you're going to be a wrestler, my advice would be to only wrestle in the, I would call them like respectable promotions, get professional training. For instance, up here, there's some people try to like jump in and do like basically backyarder type of shows and like look untrained and things like that, or get trained by people that need more training themselves, and then they kind of give a black eye to the industry in the area.
Right.
So people go in there and see that. They might only get 30 to 50 fans, but those people think that that's what wrestling is, and they might not come back. So I would say get trained by someone like we have up here, Cody Hawk, and then we have a few other options to train up here. A guy named Brandon Xavier up in Cleveland. Another friend of mine, Chris Ledbetter, not too far from here, but legitimate trainers. Mr. Hughes, really good trainer. People that are going to get you ready. And when they sign off and tell someone that you can work their show, like that means something. You're bringing in a real talent. It's not just, putting on a show for your family. Like I would say if you're just, trying to entertain your family and the locals, I guess that's okay. Like if that's what your aspirations are, but it really would depend what you're getting into it for. Like I think some of these young people, maybe they just want to live out their childhood dream and wrestle a few matches. But if you're trying to be serious about it, you absolutely need to have a real trainer, real promotions, wrestle in front of a crowd. You have to make your own merchandise. You have to push it. You have to try to make money in multiple different revenue streams. You don't just rely on showing up at these shows and your payment. You want to also be selling shirts and autographs and pictures and all that kind of stuff. Or,
Right.
Some of our guys do seminars, or basically you want to make money as many different ways as you possibly can. And I'd say you just have to work your butt off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely do have to work your butt off as a talent and as a promoter, and that's great advice right there. That definitely is great advice right there. I was going to ask what you'd look for in a talent joining Battle on the Borders, and you pretty much answer that right there, talking about being a talent, and that's great, man. That is awesome.
Well, I can give you into it just a little bit more.
Okay.
So we try to put on something that's unique, that's going to be memorable. So, for instance, our last show, we have like an up-and-coming next-generation star, Brian Pillman Jr. We've got like an old-school veteran that you'd want to get your picture with, and Rory McAllister. We've got a couple midgets. We've got a 7-foot giant. We've got a variety of women. So we've got and different kinds of girls, different sizes, bigger girls, skinnier girls. We got black, white, we got Hispanic girls. So like basically I try to put on a variety show where match after match isn't just two guys hugging each other. Each match is its own special attraction. So you have to bring something to me where I think that you can help my show. If you're just another wrestler, you're not going to get picked up. There's got to be something eye-popping, whether it's your in-ring talent, your look, your gimmick. You have to have something that's going to make my crowd remember you, or you're just going to get brushed to the side, because we're way past that. So as far as getting on Battle on the Border, you need to be able to really put yourself out there, and you have to basically get over or get out.
That's great. That I like that right there. Didn't hold no punches back on that, man. That's honest right there. I love it. I love that. I definitely.
Hey,
love
that's
that,
just the brutal honesty, man.
It is.
Maybe I'm like Jim Cornette sometimes. You ask me, I'm going to tell you. Some people don't like the answer, but it is what it is.
Well, that's great. That's great. I love it. I love that answer right there. And I know my listeners and viewers are going to love that too, or not. But you know what? It's brutally honest. It is. It definitely is. It's speaking of Battle of the Borders, what upcoming events? You mentioned something earlier. What do you have on the horizon for Battle on the Borders, and what do you have coming up?
All right, so the next big deal that we've got is in September. That's September 21st. It's called Armageddon. We've got the cage there, so we're going to have a couple different cage matches. One of them is a tiebreaker between our two hardcore icons, Hooks and his younger cousin, Wolf. And Hooks won earlier this year in a Fans Bring the Weapons match. Wolf won the rematch, and a loser gets the tattoo match, and tattooed his name, Wolf, onto Hooks after the match in front of the crowd. And then this third match is a hardcore cage match. So that's the swan song for that series. That's their last fight. The winner take all wins the series. So I'm sure that'll be really good. Brian Pillman Jr. is going to be back on that card. Chase Owens is going to be in town for that. Adam Rose will be there. The tag team finals with Roy McAllister and a mystery partner against the Five Most Wanted. Shauna Reed will be in action that night. Congo Kong against Aaron Williams. That's a pretty big match. And then we actually have a couple pre-show matches for the VIP fans. So our 80 front row and our 80 second row, those 160 people get to see a couple extra matches before the main card starts. But yeah, we're really expecting a good turnout, and we're in a relatively new venue there. We've only been at this particular venue 2 times. So part of our thing is, constantly expand. And right now we've done shows at 5 different places so far, which isn't a ton. But when you think about, we just started in 2016, and regardless of which of those 5 places and what of those towns, we've never had less than 230 fans. So I can't be too upset. Nice.
I love it, man. I love what you got going on, and I can't wait to see stuff from Battle of the Border from September 21st, Armageddon. That sounds like one hell of a card right there, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I haven't released all the card yet, but it's going to be right up there, if not the best, one of the best that we've ever done. So
nice. I love it. I love it. I love everything that you're doing with the promotion and all the talent and everyone involved in the ring and behind the scenes and everything, just to bring this promotion and bring entertainment and great matches to the fans.
It's a big team effort, and like I told you, we have quite a crew, and people like Robin are a part of that. So basically, it's not all me. As I've said before, like any good leader is only as good as the people they surround themselves with. So I may get all the credit or I may get all the criticism, but really either way, it's probably not all deserving to me, whether it's good or bad. It's more like my crew that's around me, which I trust very much. But I understand when you're the figurehead, you're going to get that whether it's good or bad. So I am cool with that. But I think some of our glory should be spread around to I've got like a really good sound guy named James. I've got a really good helps with organization, and like Robin with his podcast, and he helps with some camera stuff, and my commentary team and all those kind of people that really pitch in.
Nice.
Cody Hawk and Brandon Xavier, they run my locker room. They're the locker agents, so they kind of control that. So, yeah, I mean, it's quite a few people bringing their heads together to make it happen.
Nice. That is awesome. That is. And where can people find yourself and Battle on the Borders on social media?
All right, so if they want to follow my Facebook page, it's Denim, Denim, spelled just like the jeans. Last name is Blevins, Blevins. So Denim Blevins, just follow me on Facebook there. Or if you want to just put in your search engine, Battle on the Border Pro Wrestling, and give us a like on there. And then we also have an Instagram and a YouTube, and a Twitter, but those are all ran by other people. So I would say you just have to go to each one of them and search for us, and it would come up because I don't have the addresses memorized. But we do have representation on all those platforms. But our primary one, and the one that's ran by me, is the Battle on the Border Pro Wrestling on Facebook.
Thank you so much for taking time out tonight and coming on here and talking with me. I had a great time talking with you, man.
All right, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, I always like to talk some wrestling. I feel like that was pretty good. Got a lot of good stuff out there.
Before we do end this podcast, I do want to mention...
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
For more of The Everett Lee Show on social media, follow and like The Everett Lee Show on Facebook, The Everett Lee Show, Twitter, @the Everett_Lee, Instagram, Everett Lee Show. Audio versions of this podcast and previously released podcast can be found on everettleeshow.podbean.com. Stitcher Radio, The Everett Lee Show, give a rating and comment. Apple Podcast, The Everett Lee Show, give a rating and comment. YouTube, The Everett Lee Show, subscribe to the channel. The Everett Lee Show, your shot of entertainment to the head.
Everett Lee signing off. Thank you for tuning in tonight and listening, and we'll see you next week for another episode of The Everett Lee Show. Peace.